Okay, we are here today testing the Triumph TF450X. Now, we have already tested this bike, but in the Ricky Carmichael spec, the 450 RC. But this is exciting. This TF450X only landed in Australia in the last couple of months, and it is the standard version of the RC. The RC comes with a whole bunch of extra bits and pieces that this model doesn't get. That obviously brings the price down as well on the X, and you get the X for a more affordable package. Today with me, I have Jeff Briggs. Briggsy is going to do our test today. The reason I wanted Briggsy to do the test is Briggsy was at our 2025 450 motocross shootout. It was our biggest ever motocross shootout. We had all the Austrians, all the Japanese, Fantic, TM, Beta, everything. There were more bikes than we've ever tested. You guys were at Goulburn, big 450 track. It's pretty epic. So I want Briggsy here today because he's the only person within the magazine that's ridden every single motocross bike. So Briggsy's going to do our test. He's going to let us know what it is. Briggsy does everything from elite pro level stuff to trail riding with me. I'm getting him on a few hard enduros next year, and he's getting a 300 4-stroke enduro bike as a long termer. So Briggsy's going to test the bike, guys. Stay tuned. We're going to go out and do as many laps as we can before we melt. It is, like I said, about 40 degrees in the car at the moment. We're going to do as many as we can, and then going to come back in, tell you what we think, and jump in the pool. Okay guys, that's a wrap on the Triumph TF450X test that we're doing. It's 43 degrees according to the car today. Jeff Breaker has been testing with us and he's just left, and he texted us saying this is ridiculous. So Briggsy has been out here. As we said earlier, Briggsy has ridden every single motocross bike you can possibly ride, from all the Austrians to the Japanese to the Fantic to the Beta to the TM, everything at our motocross shootout last year. So there's no better person to test this Triumph TF450X than Briggsy, in my opinion. So Briggsy, mate, we want to talk to you today about this bike. When you first look at it, what do you think?
I like it. I really like the look of the Triumphs. I think they're one of the better looking bikes in the class. I like the yellow, the black, the white, and it goes together well. Then you see the things like the Brembo brakes, KYB, and it sort of brings a smile to your face. Looks like it's good gear. So. Yeah,
it comes fitted out with all the top stuff, which is pretty good. And pricing wise, it's a little bit more than the Japanese, but it's pretty comparative to the European bikes. Let's talk then. First thoughts when you hopped on it and you started riding it. First thoughts on this bike.
I really liked it. I really like the ergos. It's got a nice flatter bar, the Brembo brakes and clutch. Nice seat. The seat feels really nice. It's skinny. It kind of feels, it's funny because it has its own feel, but it feels similar to other bikes in certain ways. So it does kind of feel, I'd say, like an alloy KTM in a sense, with just the sitting on it. Okay. But it doesn't ride like one. It rides completely like its own bike. So.
Yeah, a lot of people ask that question, is it a Yamaha, is it a KTM, is it a combination of the two? Being someone who's ridden both bikes, and both bikes a lot, we've actually got a YZ450F here we're going to do another test on, we'll talk about in a second. Is it its own beast, or is it a Frankenstein of the two?
It's its own beast. So if anything, I'd have to say the handling is its own thing. The chassis is so compliant, but it also doesn't steer as well as a Honda, but then it steers better than a KTM, if that makes sense. I really like that it does steer like that. It's just something different. It's its own thing. And we didn't do sag or fork height or anything, so I think we could change that to make it turn better or worse if we wanted to. I really liked the suspension. The KYB up front and back is really nice. The fork held up really well. The shock didn't do anything out of place. It was very compliant, very predictable, and it felt really balanced through the chassis with the bike. That's the thing. They've really refined the setup out of the box to make it really compliant and user friendly, and I really liked it.
Yeah. Let's talk about the motor, because both you and Brayco said the motor feels strong, but there's one thing that stands out to you that probably needs to change. What is it?
The gearing. Yeah, the gearing. It's not that it's bad, I just feel like that it's been set up for American tracks where they've got a lot bigger wide open corners and you can hold second a lot longer. For our tracks in Australia, I feel like you could go 2 teeth up on the rear because it's 1348, and 1350 would be is pretty much the standard for most motocrosses. Yeah, and I really feel like the engine would actually give you a different feel if you change that gearing to a 1350. It'd really liven it up and bring it closer to more like a YZ feel or something in the middle. At the moment, it does feel with that gearing a bit like a KX. It feels like it's on the slower side, even though it's not. And I feel like it's a great entry-level engine for that reason, but it does have more torque than, say, a KX, where it just wants to keep pulling, and it'll pull right through the gear range.
Yeah.
So it does work really well, and I feel like in a long, fast, open track, it'd be a great setup. But I just feel like the tracks are a little bit tighter in Australia. And somewhere like Ranch it'll work really well, where you can hold that third along the bottom or fourth, and it'd do really well. But somewhere like Maitland, where they have a national, it's going to feel really tall, like you're going to be in second a lot of the track.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting. Talking about the final gearing, it is a really simple change, which is good. And I think out on the track, you and Brayco, while you guys were testing it back to back, you mentioned that, you know, once you make that change, you've got a bike that out of the crate could suit anyone from a C or B grader through to an A or Pro.
Yeah,
and then when you change, if you go pipe, ignition, gearing, or even just gearing, A grade Pro. So it's pretty versatile, the motor, the actual power.
Yeah, very. Yeah, I think that'll make a huge difference with a pipe and an ignition too. Open it up, let it breathe a little more, and that gearing, it'll be closer to a YZ feel then, for sure.
Okay, so one of the most important questions we often get asked is, like, who does it suit? We talked about at the shootout, the Fantic and the Yamaha suiting Pro and A grade guys. They're just so fast and aggressive. We talked about the Honda and the Kawasaki kind of suiting C, B grade guys. Obviously all these bikes can be turned into absolute monsters. Look what the Lawrences do with the Honda. But out of the box, who's this bike suiting?
Everyone. Yeah, I really feel like it'd suit everyone. It's a great platform. It's very forgiving, especially the chassis and the handling. And then with that motor being that little bit more linear, I feel like it'd be really suited to anyone. Like, because once you change that gearing, it is going to get more aggressive, and a pipe and exhaust, which everyone does, like, it'd just open it up again. So it would be closer to a YZ for sure.
This is Triumph's first go at a 450 motocross bike. Yes, they've had the TF 450 RC, which is the Ricky Carmichael version of this, but this is their first go at a motocross bike. Everything feels solid, doesn't do anything weird, there's nothing randomly broke. No.
It's really predictable. It does everything you want it to do, and they've refined it really well. For a first go on a 450, it's every bit as competitive as all the other 450s.
Yeah, that's wild to think that they've managed to come out of the box straight up with a bike that's could go a top 3 at a shootout. That's pretty impressive. And then the last thing you mentioned at the start too, you talked about KYB suspension. I know you're a fan of KYB suspension, it works well. Is this some of the best KYB suspension you feel in the class?
Yeah, for sure. I really think the fork was really nice, it held up really well. The shock, it's hard. Shocks are harder to pick than a fork, I find, because especially when you're on a softer track, you don't get that feel until you get in the big braking bumps and they start coming back at you. But today it was a little bit smoother, but it felt fine. It handled all the jumps. I went short, long, and it was fine like that. It didn't unload and send me one way or the other way. The fork butt held up really, really well under braking. And like I said, the balance, they've actually done a really good job to get the linkage, the shock, the fork, and all that to work well and complement the frame and the chassis to make it so it's not pivoting and it's not like, on a seesaw, which a lot of bikes used to do. A lot of them don't anymore anyway, but it's a good job when you can do that as a first go out of the box.
Definitely. And like you mentioned earlier too, it comes with so many cool parts. You got, everything that you used to have to pay for, or you do pay for on other models, like launch control and the quick shifter and traction control and mapping modes. That all comes standard on the X as it does with the RC.
Even the powder coated clamps, little things like that. So
yeah, it's a tidy finish, and the only thing that's missing is a hole shut button to pretty much get it out and go racing on the weekend. So that's an impressive way to finish off a bike. That's our feedback, guys, for our test on the TF450X. We're gonna go jump in the pool before we melt because it is out of control how hot it is right now. We do have another test coming for you though with the 2026 Yamaha YZ450F up against this Triumph TF450X. That's gonna be exciting because the 2025 Yamaha, it won our motocross shootout as it did so many shootouts around the world. It's an exceptional bike. So we wanna see where this one sits against it back to back. So stay tuned for that Yamaha test. Briggsy will be heading that test up again for us, and so will Matt Boyd, our technical editor, who has ridden all of the motocross bikes as well at our shootout last year. Stay tuned for that test. For us, that's it. We'll see you at the next one.